Hello everyone, welcome back to Chop It Up Sports. First episode we've had in a while. Took a hiatus after the Super Bowl. Took some time for ourselves. It is finals week down here in Ashland, so we apologize for the break, but we are back just in time for March Madness. Today, a little bit different episode. We're going to be going through our first round picks in the March Madness bracket. Due to our setup right now, we're recording on my phone. We're using the audio through my computer, so Hunter is going to take us through the bracket today. Being best time of the year, love March Madness. You're a big basketball guy. I'm a big basketball guy. Last year we did an episode on this. It did really well, and so excited to get back to it.
Yes. And I apologize for the hiatus. Just started a new job, so we're just organizing life down here, but we're excited to get back to it, especially during this time of the year. This is the best time of the year to make a podcast, I think. So I say we just jump into the bracket. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's just start with the East region. Just go like how it's posted on a piece of paper. You know what I mean? So we'll start with the East region. Duke and Siena. Anything special?
No.
I'm going to be honest. I actually have a cousin that was a women's basketball player for Siena. However, I don't know anything about this team. I'll be honest. I didn't do my research on Siena, but I got Duke because Duke is really good, and I don't think Siena is very good.
What he said. Let's keep it moving.
Okay, Ohio State and TCU. Now things get interesting. This has been talked about as one of the most exciting matchups of the first round. I'm going with Ohio State. I just like Bruce Thornton. I know TCU plays really fast, which is good in March. Lots of times you put on a big run, you can have an upset. That being said, I think these are two evenly matched teams. I'm going with the veteran guard who just has been dominating college basketball all year on a team that maybe is in the middle of the road, so he doesn't get talked about as much. But realistically, if he was on a better team, I think Bruce Thornton would be up there with the ranks of the best players in the country fighting for AP All-American.
Yeah, he's the all-time leading scorer in Ohio State basketball history, and that's to go along with the names of Mike Conley, Greg Oden, a bunch of other Buckeye greats. So Thornton's no joke. I think any team that you're going to get in this bracket out of the Big 12, they've been through hell and back, because the Big 12, probably the best conference in college basketball this season in terms of depth, in terms of talent. They have a lot of really, really good teams down there in the Southwest United States. But with that being said, I'm going to go with Ohio State for the same reasons you listed. I like the guard play from Thornton and their other contributors. I also think they finished the season really well. There was a point with about a month left in the season where Ohio State wasn't a guarantee to get into the tournament. Despite that, they played really well. They finished the season strong, won a game or two in the Big Ten tournament, and I think they're just kind of getting hot at the right time. And so I like the Buckeyes to go take down the Horned Frogs.
Gotcha. Well, then we'll move it on to a 5 versus 12 matchup, which is the most popular picked upset typically in the first round. We got St. John's in Northern Iowa. This is what I know about UNI. They play pretty slow. They play great defense. They protect the ball. So if there was going to be an upset, I could see it being a sloppy 50-50 game. St. John's doesn't make some of the shots that they normally do, and because of UNI's slow pace, St. John's never gets the opportunity to sort of run away with it. That being said, that is not the game I see. St. John's just dominated the Big East tournament. I mean, totally blew out UConn. They have a great coach in Rick Pitino. I'm just going with momentum here. I'm going to pick St. John's. They look like an elite team. I know that some of their guards are injured. That being said, they just made a fool of one of the best teams in the country, so I expect them to carry the momentum into this first weekend and pick up a win.
Yeah, Pitino, the godfather of March. I listen, I love the 12-5 upsets. I really do. I'd love to go with Northern Iowa. We'll get into some other 12-5 matchups throughout the bracket. But I just really don't see this going in Northern Iowa's favor. When you are an underdog and you play slow, you have to play perfect basketball, especially in the half court offensively. You have to execute. You have to make shots. And I just don't really think they're going to be able to do that simply because of St. John's physicality. Like you mentioned, they just beat UConn. They've beat them, I believe, twice this year, if I'm not mistaken. And so I just think St. John's physicality is something that's going to stir up a lot of teams. I think it's going to help them down the road, whether that's a Sweet 16 game, an Elite 8 matchup, if they were to make a run. But with that being said, I don't think this is the 12-5 matchup that you want to pick an upset.
Yes. Okay. Now we have Kansas and Cal Baptist. We got a 4 versus 13. Sorry, I'm trying to sort through all the brackets here. 4 versus 13. Kansas obviously has sort of had an interesting season. They've been very good. They've beat a lot of good teams, but their star player has some question marks around him. I think it sort of is affecting team culture, things like that. So with that being said, I am going to take Cal Baptist. What's interesting, what stands out to me about this team is they're 25-8, second in the WAC. Obviously, they won their tournament, but they've been like streaky, but streaky good. They've had 2 stretches where they lost 3 games in a row, accounting for 6 of their 8 losses. And their last 3-game stretch, losing 3 in a row, was against teams in Power 5 conferences. And outside of a loss to BYU, those were close games. And then after that, they go on a big, long 8-game win streak. And they're led by Dominique Daniels Jr., who I think he's 5'10". He doesn't necessarily shoot the 3-ball exceptionally well, but he's just a very exciting player. Sort of reminds me of Marquise Noel for Kansas State a few years back. And so I'm going to roll with him and his squad and pick a 13 versus 4 upset here, just solely because how exciting this team is. They get hot, they stay hot. Like I said, on an 8-game winning streak where there really hasn't been any close games. They've sort of blown out their competition. They have one of the most exciting players you're going to see on this first weekend. Trust me, tune in, watch Dominique Daniels Jr., averaging 23 on the year. Like I said, 5'10" guard, is as crafty as they come. So I'm going with an upset. I'm going with Cal Baptist.
We're going to split here, and listen, I'm not going to act like I'm some Cal Baptist expert and I've been tuning into the WAC all year, but there are some exciting guys you're going to see in this tournament from small schools. With that being said, Kansas also has a guy that's pretty exciting to watch, and his name's Darren Patterson.
Darren
Peterson. And the thing about Darren Peterson is that he's probably going to be the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft. I think he goes off against Cal Baptist. I get there's a lot of controversy around Darren Peterson, and I am all in on the train that he's got some things that he's got to fix in terms of how he approaches the team and the culture. There's a lot of things that were off early on in the season. However, Kansas has kind of figured things out offensively. Peterson seemed to be a little bit more bought in. Now, whether that's because he's healthier now than he was at the beginning of the year or something changed behind the scenes in the locker room, we don't have the answers to that. But what we do know is that Kansas has been playing a little bit better down the stretch. They've won some big-time games. And Bill Self, it's hard not to trust him in this tournament. They just won a national championship not too long ago. I'm not saying Kansas makes a crazy run, but I do think they're good enough on the day to get past Cal Baptist.
Yeah. All right, let's move it on to an 11-6 matchup, Louisville and South Florida. This is probably the most popular upset from what I've seen, picking the South Florida Bulls, the 11 seed over the Louisville Cardinals. Interesting news, Mikael Brown Jr., the freshman phenom for Louisville, is going to be out in this game. That being said, I'm still going to pick the Cardinals. South Florida is a popular pick because they're 25-8, 15-3 in conference, not to mention that they play in the American, which is a respectable conference. You got the likes of Tulsa, Wichita State, UAB, and then obviously some other programs that maybe weren't as great this year, but traditionally are good basketball programs like Memphis, Florida Atlantic made that run not too long ago. So South Florida, they play fast. They turn the other team over a bunch. They put up 87 points a game, caused 9 steals a game. And so I think a lot of people are looking at that, seeing like that the Bulls can go on a big run, maybe pull away. But I think the Louisville Cardinals, they've been battle-tested this year. They play in the ACC. They have a great head coach. So I'm just going to stick with the Louisville Cardinals. I think they just play better competitions throughout the year. They're more ready for this tournament, and so I'm going to take the Cardinals.
Yeah, I had a tough time with this one because, like you said, I love Louisville's coach. I like the way they play. They're a team that throughout the year, I've enjoyed watching. But with that being said, I think this is where an upset happens, in my opinion, in the East. I think USF finds a way to win. I think their style of play matches up well against Louisville, especially when you consider the fact that Louisville's struggling with some injuries in the backcourt. So because of that, I think you get an upset here, and things start to get interesting in the East region.
Yeah, okay. Now let's move on to a 14-3 matchup. North Dakota State, the 14 seed versus the 3 seed Michigan State Spartans. I'm rolling with MSU. I like Tom Izzo. He prepares his team for March. They have a great point guard, Jeremy Fears Jr. Averaging 15 and 9, something we haven't seen in college basketball in a while. At least, for a team in the power conference. I guess Braden Smith, you could argue, is doing that for Purdue right now. Either way, Jeremy Fears, great player. Tom Izzo, great coach. I'm going with them. They play defense. They hold their opponents to 68 points a game. And they can get out and run. They throw it up. They get the ball out of bounds quick, throw it up to Cohen Carr. And so I think they put on a big run, sort of bury the Bison early, and they get a dub.
Yeah, I am right there with you. The months in the year, January, February, Izzo, as they say there in East Lansing. Listen, sometimes there's a 14 seed that I look at and I'm like, hey, if things go the right way, they could win this game. I don't see this happening against Michigan State. The thing I like about the Spartans is even when they're not shooting it great offensively, if Fears has an off night, if they can't get their other contributors to step up, their ability to not turn the ball over and play strong defense is always going to keep them in games. So when they get into those later rounds, whether it's a matchup with Duke or a matchup with UConn, they're going to be able to hold their ground in some capacity simply because of the fact that they play strong defensive basketball. They're well-disciplined. They're a good team. I also think Jeremy Fears is a name to watch out for in this tournament. I get his name has been in the media a lot with his tripping and his dirty play, and I think that's all valid. But this kid can also just hoop. Like you said, averaging 15 and 9, leading the Spartans team offensively. I think he's going to be a fun player to watch, and I think Michigan State gets past North Dakota State with relative ease.
Yeah, all right, let's move it on to a 10-7. UCF versus the UCLA Bruins. UCF is the 10 seed. UCLA is the 7. I'm taking the Bruins in this game. They have some great wins on the year. I'd have to pull up their schedule to remember all of them, but they play obviously in the Big Ten. Lost a close one to Gonzaga, lost to Arizona close. They pull out a win against Purdue, upsetting number 4 Purdue at the time. They got blown out by Michigan early. They've beat Illinois. They've beat Nebraska. So this UCLA squad is very good, and I also like the makeup of this team. I like teams in March that have a veteran star guard, and UCLA has that, Donovan Dent, as well as some balance, right? They have Tyler Bilodeau, who's also a veteran, has performed very well throughout the season. And so I'm rolling with the Bruins. UCF, interestingly enough, we forget that they do play in the Big 12. They're in at large bid. They had an impressive conference record, 9-9. The Big 12 is a tough conference to play in, so I don't think they're going to be any slouch, but I'm rolling with the Bruins.
Yeah, I'm with you. There are some injury questions with Dent and Bilodeau, but with that being said, it sounds like they're going to be fine. And despite what UCLA coach Mick Cronin has to say in the media oftentimes, this team's actually really good in UCLA, and if they're in the Sweet 16 next week, I'm not going to be surprised one bit. Like you said, UCF, battle-tested, Big 12 team. They've gone through hell just like any team in that conference has, but I think UCLA's getting hot at the right time. They picked up a nice win over Michigan State recently, and I like where this team's headed. Donovan Dent, he's a veteran in this tournament, playing for New Mexico last year, transfers out to Inglewood. Now he's with the Bruins. I think you're going to see him making some big plays, and I think you're going to see UCLA making things interesting for a couple games in this tournament.
All right. Now we got UConn and Furman. UConn is the 2 seed in the East region, while Furman is the 15. Obviously, I don't know if it was the last time they were, but I think the last time Furman was in the tournament, I know they had an upset. I don't know that it was their last time in the tournament, but I do remember that crazy upset against Virginia, I believe.
Yeah.
But I'm rolling with UConn. Danny Hurley is my favorite coach. I know that's controversial. People don't like his sort of the antics, but I think he out-joysticks anybody. He draws up the best plays in the tournament. He prepares his team to win big games. Obviously, they back-to-back champs, and then they lose in a close one to the reigning national champions Florida Gators last year. So I'm rolling with UConn. Dan Hurley's going to have his team ready. He's going to out-joystick the opponent. They're going a little too fast. They're going to go on a big run in this game, blow out Furman, establish the momentum for the tournament. The one thing that does sort of scare me about UConn moving forward is their past champions sort of had these clear, superstars. I don't know that UConn has that this year. I know Alex Caravan has been there for a long time. He's put up great numbers, but in my opinion, he's by no means a superstar. Solo ball, shoots the ball well. He didn't shoot it as good this year. Taurus Reed Jr. is putting up like 13. So they're a very balanced team. I would love to see, I like to see superstars in these runs, but also March is a special time. We don't know who's going to step up for the Huskies, and maybe a superstar will be born.
Yeah, UConn in the long term of this tournament, I have some questions, but we'll get into that at a later date and time. They're going to beat Furman.
Yep. Florida and Prairie View. I'm going Florida.
Florida.
They're hot. Iowa and Clemson. Now this one is interesting to me. Neither of these teams strike you as a bracket buster due to their slow play. They both like to play in the half court. They both play great defense. That being said, both these teams are very familiar with the March Madness tournament. They have good coaches in place. I'm rolling with Iowa. I think they played in the Big Ten this year. They play amazing defense. They really slow down the game, and they have Bennett Sturts. That's the big thing. They have that superstar guard to lead them. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. It'll be an interesting one. This is an 8-9 matchup. I don't know if I mentioned that. I'm sure you guys know already. I'm rolling with Iowa.
Yeah, I got the Hawkeyes too. Clemson, for one, their starting center tore his ACL. He's done for the year. Don't be surprised if this is an ugly game. If I'm not mistaken, Clemson's won like 4 out of their last 10, and Iowa's not far behind them either. So both teams struggling headed into this tournament. Like you said, Iowa's got the star power a little bit. I think they are going to be able to shoot it a little bit better than Clemson has. Clemson also lost to McNeese last year after making a deep run the year prior to that. And so with that being said, I think the Hawkeyes are going to find a way to get this one done. But with that being said, I think it's going to be a close, competitive game, and Iowa finds a way to win.
Speaking of McNeese, now we got a 5 seed in Vanderbilt matching up with the 12 seed McNeese, another popular upset pick. I'm rolling with Vanderbilt. These guys are hot. They have amazing guard play. McNeese has a great freshman guard as well. Larry Johnson put it up 17, 5, and 1. That being said, I just think Vanderbilt's too hot. I mean, they just rolled through the SEC tournament, made it all the way to the championship game. They go on big runs. They play fast. They do turn over the ball. Or no, they protect the ball well. But like due to how fast they play, they can go in spurts. They're high on the streakiness chart, if you want to say that. But I'm going with Vanderbilt. They're hot. So.
Yeah, this is a tough one. I filled out a couple different brackets. I have McNeese in one, Vanderbilt in the other. Listen, I interviewed Oricon on the radio last week, so to say I don't have some bias would be a lie to you guys, and I'm not going to do that. I like this McNeese team. Along with Larry Johnson, they have another veteran guard, Javon Garcia. He stayed with the program after their little run last year, and he balled out in the Southland Conference Championship game. He put up nearly 30 points, I believe, in a win over Stephen F. Austin. And so I like the scoring from McNeese. Defensively, they're very intense. I think they're going to try and find a way to rile Vanderbilt up. And if Vandy wants to play fast, I think McNeese is okay letting them do that. But with that being said, if I had to put money on this game or really just commit to a team, it's going to be really hard for me to go against Vanderbilt with what they just did in the SEC tournament. So I got the Commodores.
All right, now we got 13 Troy versus the 4 seed Nebraska Cornhuskers. I'm rolling with the Cornhuskers. I think they have a great coach in Fred Hoiberg. They're a very complete team. Everybody on the floor can score the ball. And with that being said, I think the Troy Trojans went 12-6 in the Sun Belt Conference this year. A pretty weak conference in college basketball this season. And so I don't love seeing a 20-11 record in sort of a weak conference as your 13 seed. So I just think the Cornhuskers playing in the Big Ten, being a complete team and having a great coach, and a team that scores a lot of points, I think they're going to win.
Yeah, I mean, listen, neither program has won a March Madness game in program history. And so we're going to see some sort of landmark get reached here at some point, whether it's Nebraska picking up the win or Troy. I saw a couple people going with Troy in this one. I'm not sure why. I think Nebraska's a really good team. If things go their way, they could make a run. I saw some experts having them as far as the Elite Eight. So I like what this Nebraska team has to offer. They obviously got some shooting. Sam Hoiberg, the coach's son, he's a baller at the point guard position, and I think Nebraska is going to get this one done.
All right, the 11 seed VCU Rams, very familiar with March Madness. An inspiring Cinderella story not too long ago against the 6 seed North Carolina Tar Heels. I know the Tar Heels sort of, with losing Caleb Wilson, they sort of started going downhill towards the end of the season. That being said, I know not having your best player in the tournament is not a good thing, literally. But I think you can sort of spin that with the great coach that North Carolina has, and build some positive energy. Sort of have this fighting attitude. A lot of people are picking the Rams in this game, and so I think North Carolina is going to come out fired up. They played in a tough conference. They've played the best teams all year, and so I think they're going to come out fired up, wanting to get a win for their star player, and they're going to get a win.
Yeah, I think a lot of people looking at this game just saw that Caleb Wilson was out and just kind of chalked it up as an easy VCU upset. I don't see it that way at all. A guy that I love for North Carolina, Seth Trimble. He's been around for a bit. He's a veteran. Hit that game winner against Duke a few weeks back, if you guys recall. And listen, I think UNC is going to find a way to win this game. Now, do I think there's a time where the Caleb Wilson injury is going to bite them? Yes, absolutely. I think that will catch up to them at some point. But I think they're going to be good enough to beat VCU on the day. Once again, this is another popular upset that I am fading. I'm going with the Tar Heels on this one.
All right, 3-seeded Illinois Fighting Illini versus the 14-seed Pennsylvania Quakers. I'm going with Illinois. They've played well all year. They have some of the best wins in the country. And then Keaton Wagler, oh my gosh, he's one of my favorite freshman players. And so I'm just rolling with them solely because of that. I mean, the Penn is 18-11 playing in a weak conference. Illinois played in arguably the best conference in college basketball this season, and they have one of the best players in college basketball, just a freshman, Keaton Wagner. So I am rolling with Illinois in this game.
Yeah, I really like this Fighting Illini team. They shoot the ball well. They're super talented. Like we said, Keaton Wagler, superstar freshman. They have some other complementary pieces that fit him really well. So I like Illinois in this tournament just in general. I know Penn has a couple guys that have played meaningful games. I don't know his exact name, but they have a guy played at Duke, played at another program, so he's been around. He's played in NCAA tournament games. He knows his way around. He's a leader for this Penn team. But with that being said, I think Illinois is going to be too much.
Alrighty, now this is an interesting matchup. We have the 10-seeded Texas A&M Aggies versus the 7-seeded St. Mary's Gales. Both these teams have become familiar with the tournament. They're often in it. I'm going with the Texas A&M Aggies in this one. St. Mary's plays great defense. That being said, Texas A&M puts up 87 points in the SEC. I think they're going to pull this out, and they're going to go on a big run and get a win. I think they're just battle-tested, played tough teams all year. St. Mary's is pretty hot. I know they just lost to Santa Clara, which is definitely an upset, but they had a standout win against Gonzaga, and then just, not 2 weeks earlier, they blew out Santa Clara. So I don't think you can really fault them for that loss. I think it was sort of just a stumble. That being said, I'm just going with the Aggies. They play in the SEC. I like what they do. They play really fast, and so I think they're just going to be able to score the ball, put up a lot of points, and get a dub.
Yeah, I'm going with A&M on this one as well. I'm not a huge homer for, the SEC or the bigger schools always being better than the smaller schools because of, simply the strength of schedule and the conferences that they're in. But in this sake, I'm going to go with A&M. I think playing in the SEC and making the tournament speaks volumes. No disrespect to the West Coast Conference. Obviously, there's some great teams in there. But with that being said, I think Texas A&M just finds a way to get it done.
And also, I will say this. I know this maybe isn't the most popular way to pick your bracket, but if you do look at like analytics and things like that, regardless of the team, a 10 seed is supposed to advance this week. And so then if you go through the 10 seeds, I feel like Texas A&M is probably the most likely. They're the strongest 10 seed in this tournament.
Yeah.
And so if you sort of base it off that, which maybe, I don't know how folks feel about that, but it's very true. It's true almost every year. A 10 seed advances. Texas A&M is the most likely candidate, in my opinion. St. Mary's, they play great defense. But, interestingly enough, March is crazy, so if you don't score the ball particularly well and you rely on your defense, it doesn't always work out. Teams get hot. They knock down threes. And then all of a sudden, you got to put up some points. So I'm rolling with the Aggies.
And we've seen that with St. Mary's before. Was it last year they played Alabama and just got ran out of the gym? They ran into one of those Bama teams with Nate Oates, and people thought it was going to be a competitive game because St. Mary's played a completely different style of offense than Alabama did, and Bama ran them out of the gym. I could see Texas A&M doing something similar.
Yes. All right. Bottom of the South bracket, Houston versus Idaho. I am rolling with Houston. They are veteran-led. They have a great coach in Kelvin Sampson. I think outside of Dan Hurley and maybe John Shire, nobody joysticks better. Nobody draws up better plays. So I'm going with Houston Cougars. I think they're going to be prepared for this tournament. They have guys that have been through it, that lost last year in the national championship. They're going to be hungry. The Idaho Vandals are 21-14 on the season, so they really snuck in with a conference win. They were really never on the edge, but winning their tournament got them in, so I'm going with the Cougars.
Yeah, I mean, listen, shout out to U of I. As someone who lived in Idaho for 2 years. Cool to see a school out of there get to the NCAA tournament. You don't see that very often, but with that being said, Houston's probably going to kill them.
All right, now let's move it up into the West region. We got Arizona and Long Island. Arizona is one of the best teams in this tournament, if not the best. They have, I would say, throughout the year, they played the most consistent, maybe rivaling Duke. But even in their losses, they haven't had any, terrible faults. So I got Arizona. They're one of the best teams in this tournament, like I said. Interestingly enough, very rarely does a team have a higher than a 35 KenPom rating. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know all that goes into that. But what I do know is that doesn't happen very often. And teams with a KenPom rating above 35 usually win the national championship. This year, this has never happened before, as far as I know. Duke, Arizona, and Michigan all have KenPom ratings above 35, meaning they're some of the best teams we've ever watched touch the floor. So, that being said, I'm going to roll with the 1 seed Arizona Wildcats.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun matchup. The LIU story is really cool. Fins up, taking on Bear down. Listen, this Arizona team, I feel like they're complete in so many ways. We watched them on opening night, and Koa Pete went off, and you kind of look like, oh, wow, Koa Pete's going to be the freshman this year. He's going to be the star of the show. Well, they have so many more guys. Bradley, the veteran guard, he's been in Arizona for what seems like a decade. He hit a game winner the other night. He's the leader on this team. They have Braden Berries as well, another freshman contributing. He's awesome to watch. And then they also have a couple international guys who are just your typical 6'8", 6'9", not super athletic, but they can stretch the floor, do a lot for you down on the interior as well. And so I think, Arizona and Michigan, in my opinion, the most complete teams at this point. I think one of them will win the national championship. I love Arizona. I have them winning one of my brackets, so they're obviously going to beat LIU in order for that to happen.
All right. We had some technical difficulties, but we are picking back up with the 9-seeded Utah State Aggies versus the 8-seeded Villanova Wildcats. Villanova coming out of the Big East, a tough conference to play in. That being said, the Utah State Aggies are 28-6 this year. Have amazing guard play. I think a lot of people argue that they could have even been a higher seed. So I'm going to roll with the Utah State Aggies. I think they're going to take down the Wildcats.
Yeah, I think
a lot more to say.
I think the Aggies got kind of screwed with their seeding a little bit. And also looking at Villanova, the Big East really wasn't much outside of St. John's and UConn, and they didn't beat either one of those teams.
Yeah.
So I don't love Villanova simply because they don't have a ton of wins that stick out to me. Utah State, I think, they could have been maybe a 7 seed, maybe an 8 seed. So for that reason, I think they're going to beat Villanova.
Yeah, also Utah State just ran through their conference tournament while Villanova came up short against Georgetown in a 14-point loss. Georgetown was 16-18 on the year, 6-14 in conference play.
Oof.
So I'm going with Utah State. They got the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Wisconsin, High Point. Wisconsin a 5 seed, High Point a 12 seed. High Point is putting up a 20-point differential on the season, 30-4 record, 90 points per game, only 70 scored against them. They play extremely fast. They shoot the three ball well. Chase Johnston, despite putting up 6 points per game, is a legend on social media.
Dare we say the next Jack Golke?
No, I'm going to say no. He doesn't play that much. I know he shoots the three ball well. Jack Golke was one of the best players on his team, scoring a bunch of points. I know that people are picking High Point. The point differential stands out. I think they're a strong team. I think Wisconsin's a very good team, led by some elite guard play. They've been around the block. They play in the Big Ten. They're familiar with March. I'm going with Wisconsin.
Yeah, I had a tough time with this one. I would have loved to smash the 12 seed button right here. High Point, I like their team. They're fun to watch. They're explosive, like Hunter said. Wisconsin, too, the reason for an upset would be they're super inconsistent. There's been moments where they look really, really good in the Big Ten, and there's been moments where they look really, really bad. And for those of you that might have tuned into the Big Ten tournament, they looked really good against Michigan despite not winning that game. And as we know, what goes up must come down. So with that being said, you could make the argument that maybe Wisconsin, they've been playing well. Now it's their turn to stumble. A 12 always beats a 5, yada, yada, yada. I don't think this is going to be the one. I think it could be close. I think it could be very competitive in the last 10 minutes. I just think Wisconsin's going to find a way to overpower High Point when it matters most.
Yeah, and also, let's talk about Nick Boyd and John Blackwell. 20 points per game for Nick Boyd. John Blackwell, 19. They both shoot the three ball extremely well. One of the best duos in this tournament. So we got to roll with those guys.
Yeah, Wisconsin also has a plethora of guys that are built for March where you don't know their name November through February, and then March comes around and they're just starting chucking up shots and everything's going in. They got a number of guys that can do that as well.
All right, now we got Arkansas and Hawaii. Arkansas, the 4 seed, Hawaii, the 13 seed. I'm rolling with Arkansas. They're super hot. They just won the SEC championship, and I think they, honestly, in my opinion, I think they have the best player in the country. I know that is possibly a heated take. Darius Acuff Jr. he's next. If you're talking about transferable skills, he's amazing. He leads his team every single night. He led them to a SEC tournament championship. He is going to put this team on his back, and he is going to find a way to win in March.
Yeah, 2 words, Darius Acuff, must-see TV. If you get the reference, hopefully you do. But yeah, Arkansas is really good. If they go to the Final Four and we see them in Indianapolis, not going to be surprised by that at all. I like the Hogs in this one.
All right, now we got 6-seeded BYU versus 11-seeded Texas. BYU has A.J. DeBonsa leading the nation in scoring. I think also arguably the best player in the country. Although I'm rolling with Darius Acuff, I think DeBonsa is definitely up there. I'm picking Texas in this game for an interesting reason. BYU, first off, has sort of stumbled since losing Richie Saunders. That's undeniable. Texas got a warm-up game last night. And if you look throughout history, people, they hate on the play-in games, but realistically, almost always a play-in team wins at least one game. They get a warm-up. They literally played on Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah, so I'm rolling with Texas. They're warmed up. BYU's been sitting on their butts for a little while, so I'm going with Texas.
Yeah, BYU as well. They're missing Richie Saunders, their point guard. He kind of does all the dirty work for them outside of DeBonsa's scoring. And so I think that's going to be a glaring issue with this BYU team. Also, historically, BYU, a team that has come into this tournament the last 5 or 6 years, extremely talented and poised to make a run, and they've just never really done so. I think that happens again. I take Texas in this one. I'm also betting on Sean Miller, the head coach of Texas. He's been here before, whether it was Arizona or Xavier. He knows how to navigate a team through the tournament, and I think he's going to do so again with Texas beating BYU.
All right. Now we got Gonzaga and Kennesaw State. I'm going to be honest, I'm reading this bracket off my computer. It is about to die, so we're going to go speed up the pace a little bit. Mark Few wins in March. He makes it to the Sweet 16 at least every year, it seems like. So I got Gonzaga.
Yeah, I ditto. This isn't an NCAA rebuild. This is real life. Gonzaga will beat Kennesaw State.
Now we got 7 seeded Miami versus 10 seeded Missouri. I am rolling with Missouri. They're led by Mark Mitchell, a senior guard who has been around the block, put up 32 in an overtime loss to Arkansas to end the regular season, and then 32 again in a close loss to Kentucky. They have some very impressive wins in the SEC this year. So I am rolling with the Missouri Tigers to win this game.
I'm going to split here. I'm going to go with Jay Lucas and the Miami Hurricanes. He's done a great job with this Miami program, completely turning them around. Miami was just in the Final Four not that long ago, guys. I think they're poised to make a run this year. They're one of the most well-coached teams in college basketball. I think this will be one of the most exciting games of the weekend, but this is a game where I see the 7 seed surviving against the 10.
All right, now we got Purdue and Queens. Matt Painter has got his team a top 4 seed, I think, in 9 straight tournaments, which is pretty crazy. Notably upset often. However, they're a 2 seed led by Braden Smith, a senior guard. They're going to win this game.
Yeah, there will be a game where Purdue loses, and they probably shouldn't, but this will not be that game. They're going to get past Queens with ease, I think, and not much more than that.
All right, I'm just looking up the bracket on my phone in case my computer dies. Apologies for that. But we got Michigan and Howard. I got Michigan, number 1 seed. Like I said earlier in the podcast, based on KenPom ratings, technically one of the greatest teams we've ever seen. Like I said, I don't know all that goes into KenPom, but I know it's a pretty good metric. It seems to be accurate when March rolls around, so I'm going with Michigan.
Yeah, Yaxel Lindenberg, he's a beast. Elliot Cadeau's taken a huge step up since arriving in Ann Arbor. Like I mentioned earlier, if Arizona doesn't win this whole thing, I think it'll be Michigan, and they might be Howard by 400 points.
We got St. Louis, the 9 seed, versus the 8 seeded Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia coming out of the SEC, built on athleticism. They score 90 points a game, only give up 80. St. Louis, however, with an equal metric. I mean, a larger point differential, but they play in a weaker conference, putting up 87 points a game, only allowing 69. And they are led by, dare I say, a legend in Robbie Avila. Only averaging 13 on the season, but we know what he can do. He sort of took a step back as a senior, let the guys let his other teammates eat this year. But this is not your average mid-major 9 seed. They are here for a reason. They are 28-5. I'm going with the upset in St. Louis, the St. Louis Billikens. What is a Billiken? Does anybody know?
I mean, their mascot kind of looks like the Michelin Man, so maybe that's a Billiken or something like that. Listen, I'm going to take Georgia for the same reason I took Texas A&M. I think these teams that kind of just ride the middle of the wave in the SEC kind of get forgotten about in the regular season, but then when you get paired up against a mid-major in the first round, it can be their time to shine. I think Georgia, they've picked up some key wins. They're athletic. They're fun to watch. And despite my love for Robbie Avila, a.k.a. Steph Blurry, I think that Georgia's going to be able to get a win in this one.
All right, now 5-seeded Texas Tech versus 12-seeded Akron. People are choosing Akron left and right. Texas Tech lost J.T. Toppin, but they forget they are led by Christian Anderson, one of the coldest dudes in the tournament. But I'm going with Akron. They play really fast. They put up a lot of points. They cause a lot of turnovers. So I decided to go with Akron. They're a 12 seed. 12 seeds, for some reason, they win in March. I'm going with Akron. Texas Tech down. An AP All-American, one of the best players in the country. So I'm going with Akron.
You really rope-a-doped us there. Yeah. I was giggling for a couple reasons.
They're 29-5. I mean, they're not no slouch. They didn't just win their conference tournament to get here.
Right. No, I was laughing for a couple reasons. One, I was laughing at the way you set up your pick. Two, Steph Blurry might be one of the greatest nicknames in the history of college basketball. Looking at this matchup, I've seen just about every expert tell me why Texas Tech is going to be fine for at least a round. I have no reason not to believe those guys. And so for that reason, I think Tech is talented enough and athletic enough to continue to win games. And I think they'll do that against Akron as well.
Guy to look out for. Tavari Johnson plays for the Akron Zips. Great name, by the way. 20 points a game. Shoots at 51% from the field, 37 from 3. This dude is electric. 6-foot guard. Short end.
He might be the next Marquise Noel.
Could be. Keep an eye out for Tavari Johnson. Okay. Now let's move on to Alabama and Hofstra. I'm going to be honest. I didn't look into Hofstra all that much. I probably should have. I know people are saying that they're possibly the strongest 13 seed in the tournament. That being said, I just think Alabama's good. They're too dynamic. They can score. Everybody on the floor scores. They shoot the three ball. They play really fast. Nate Oates is a great coach. I don't see his team not being prepared to win. And I think even if things don't necessarily go their way early, they're a complete enough team to find answers. With different players, with different schemes, they could play inside. They could play outside. Too complete of a team to lose in the first round.
Yeah, well, I can tell you who will not be ready to play for Alabama, and that's Aiden Holloway because he got arrested. He's going to be out for what I would assume would be Alabama's entire run, and that's a huge deal. He was one of their starting guards, their second leading scorer, I do believe. But despite that, this Bama team, the way they play, they have a lot of guys that can get up and down the floor, rile you up defensively, make you hurt offensively, and so I think for that reason, Bama's going to find guys to make shots. They always do, and they're going to get past Hofstra, but maybe not without a little fight there from whatever Hofstra's mascot is.
I can't remember. Some sort of lion.
The Hofstra Lions.
Yeah, no, we'll I had to switch over to my phone, so I cannot see as many details. Now we got 6-seeded Tennessee versus 11-seeded Miami, Ohio. One of the most controversial teams in this tournament after going 31-0, maybe 30-0.
31-0.
31-0 in the regular season. Stumbles in the first round against UMass. UMass, a really tough opponent.
Unbelievable.
I'm taking Tennessee. Partially because I've been a Miami, Ohio hater all year. I think I credit to them for winning 31 games. For real, that's impressive. You know how hard it is to win that many games in a row and not stumble? Extremely difficult. Credit to you. I don't think they're that talented, and I think Tennessee is.
This is what I'm going to say about my Miami, Ohio Redhawks. Going 31-0 is awesome. Losing to UMass, not a great indicator heading into March. We're recording this on a Wednesday night. Miami, Ohio beat SMU. If Miami, Ohio shoots the way they shot the ball tonight against SMU, they will beat Tennessee. That is a guarantee. I think they shot around 40% from three. They shot nearly 40 attempts. I don't know if you're pulling up the box score right now, but those guys just went in guns blazing, and it paid off. Now, if they struggle to make shots, I'm not sure they're athletic enough defensively to keep up with Tennessee. But with that being said, they did limit Boopy Miller to a relatively mediocre night tonight. But I'm going to go with Tennessee. I think they're going to be able to be more athletic and just kind of overwhelm Miami, Ohio, simply from a size and athleticism standpoint. But watch out for the Redhawks to light up the scoreboard if they get hot.
All right, now we got 4-seeded Virginia versus 13-seeded Wright State. I'm taking Virginia. Excuse me, I said that wrong. I think it's 3-seeded Virginia, 14-seeded Wright State. I'm taking Virginia. This is not the Virginia team we've known in the past. I like to view Virginia, or the old Virginia teams, sort of as like a more talented St. Mary's. They played very good defense, but they didn't necessarily score the ball at elite level. They love playing in the half court. And that led to a lot of March upsets. Notably Furman, like we said earlier in the podcast. But this team is different. These guys play defense and they score the ball. They play with a much higher pace. And so I like to see that out of the Cavaliers. Obviously, they just took Duke to the wire, one of the best teams in the country, if not the best. So I'm going with the Virginia Cavaliers.
Yeah, listen, I love this Virginia team. I watched them against Duke the other night. They have the best shot blocker in the country, and I think a lot of times when teams make runs, rim protection turns out to be a key indicator of who's going to win these games. So when you're under 5 minutes to play and you need to stop and you have a guy that can send everyone's shot into the third row, that's helpful. And along with that, they have guys that can score the ball. This isn't the Tony Bennett Virginia teams where it's like watching paint dry offensively. They're exciting to watch. They get up and down the floor. They're one of the most balanced teams. And a fun fact about Virginia, their head coach now was the head coach of UMBC when the Retrievers took down Virginia a couple of years ago. I believe that was 2018. So that's a fun little nugget. I really like Virginia in this tournament, and I'm excited because I think they're going to make a deep run.
All right, now we have Santa Clara versus Kentucky, the 7 seed, Santa Clara, the 10. I'm rolling with Santa Clara. I like this team. They play well. They have a good point differential. They've played Gonzaga tough all year, and they beat St. Mary's in the conference tournament when a lot was on the line for these guys. I mean, 10 seeds, they're always on the edge. So to pick up a big win like that in the conference tournament says something. And then they, played Gonzaga tough. So I'm going to go with Santa Clara. They're playing Kentucky, who's been just so inconsistent all year. I know they play in a tough conference, and they have some veteran leadership. But just something doesn't feel right to me about this Wildcats team. I know the last time they were a seed this low, they went on a big run, but I'm going with Santa Clara.
Yeah, I'm also going with Santa Clara simply because I just don't trust Kentucky. This team plays Russian roulette on a nightly basis, and I just am not going to trust a team in March that is that inconsistent. I think Mark Pope has done an okay job during his time in Lexington, but I think Santa Clara is going to pull off an upset, and we're going to be talking about another early exit for Kentucky.
All right. Now the last game is it the South region we're on?
Yeah, I think we're in the South.
No,
we're in the Midwest.
We're in the Midwest region. Apologies. But the last game on the bracket, last game on your guys' bracket, intentionally saved for last by me. We have the number 2 seed, Iowa State Cyclones, going up against the number 15 seed, Tennessee State. It has been a long time since Tennessee State has been back in the tournament. I'm looking something up real quick because the last time they were in, they went on a run. And I got to remember how far they went.
Was this like 1984?
I'm going to find out. But either way, this is a complete team. They have a guard averaging 17 points per game. They score a lot of points. Iowa State has been inconsistent all year. 15 seeds, as of recent, they figured something out. Princeton, St. Peter's. Anybody else? I think there's another one. Pretty sure there was a third 15 seed.
Furman might have been a 15
No,
seed.
they were 14, I'm pretty sure. Either way, Tennessee State is going to pull off an upset of the century, setting themselves up for a matchup versus 10 seed Santa Clara. A very winnable game for these guys. And we will be seeing another 15 seed in the Sweet 16.
Wow.
It's going to happen again. You talk. I'm going to look something up. When was the last time these guys were in the tournament?
I am going to go with the Iowa State Cyclones. Like Hunter said, they're extremely inconsistent. I've been out on Iowa State for a while, similar to Kentucky. When a team is just up and down throughout late January and all the way through February, don't trust them with your bracket. I have Virginia beating Iowa State in the Sweet 16, I believe. Maybe that would be, that'd be the Sweet 16. So I don't trust this Iowa State team. I think they're good enough to get past Tennessee State. I think they're good enough to get past Santa Clara. Even then, I get a little nervous when I got to that point in my bracket. But I think they're going to be good enough on the day to get past Tennessee State. I love and I respect the research that you've done, the pick. I absolutely love the pick, but I can't get myself to do it.
I'm going to backtrack. These guys haven't been in the tournament.
This guy's flaking
No,
out.
I'm still picking Tennessee State, and I'll tell you why. They haven't been to the tournament in 32 years, 1994. I think you were correct on that.
I said 84. But I was close.
Either way.
What a guess.
Okay, 93 they were the 15 seed, 94 they were the 14 seed. They didn't win games, either of those years. But what that tells me, these guys are due. They are due. They've been 15 seed before. They've been the 14 seed. These guys are due. They just blew out Morehead State. I watched that game.
What a win, dude.
I watched that game. That's what I'm saying. Like, I know, but I just watched them blow out Morehead State in their conference championship game, and I was like, these guys, there's something about them. There's something about them. Put up 93 points. Multiple games over 100 points this year. They have some bad losses, some really bad losses. But sometimes they score 100 points.
And they're hot right now.
Who's to say they aren't going to do it tomorrow? I don't know if they play on Friday or tomorrow. Why not? Why not us?
Also,
why can't I be the MVP?
Tennessee State, reigning conference champions, won their last game. You know who didn't win their last game?
Iowa State.
Iowa State. Watch out. Oh, it'd be fun. It'd be cool to see that happen. That is going to wrap it up for this March Madness episode. We know it's a long one, but we want to give you guys our facts, our thoughts and opinions and all that good stuff before the bracket starts. When you guys are watching this, it'll likely be Thursday morning, and I just want to have a quick PSA to you guys. Enjoy this morning. You only get it once. The first true day of March Madness, you wake up in the morning, there's games on. You go to bed at night, there's still games on. And then you get to wake up Friday and do it all again. The Sweet 16 is awesome. The Elite Eight, the Final Four, the Natty, it's all fun and games. Those are great moments. But the first 2 to 4 days of March Madness is unlike anything else. And so we just ask that you enjoy this moment. We hope you enjoyed the podcast. Hit the like, follow, subscribe, all those buttons that help us out. We are back in rhythm. We are back in tune. We're going to put a pod out as soon as the Sweet 16 is ready to rock and roll. And let's have an absolute blast this March.
I agree. Keep an eye out for the Tennessee State Tigers. That's all I got to say.
That is going to do it. Oh.
When your bracket's busted on the first day, don't come complaining to me.
That is going to do it for this episode of Chop It Up. We appreciate you guys for listening. As always, I'm Carter Stedman. Next to me, Hunter Fullerton. And have a great day.